Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. I hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far, and there is a lot going on right now in the competitive Call of Duty community. Over the coming days we're going to have weapon updates, we're going to have new maps dropping into the game, but also roster mania chaos seems to be back underway. One change confirmed yesterday, other changes supposedly happening behind the scenes. There's a lot going on now. We are going to dive into it and try to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. Like if you guys enjoyed the video, subscribe if you are new as always, I'd greatly appreciate it. It really helps out the channel. Thank you very much indeed for doing that. Let's dive into things then. First of all, this from Afro. He's been in the conversation really these last couple of seasons, up there with Hydra to be honest, in the European Challenger scene as one of the next up talents. He was signed as the London Royal Ravens, one of their substitutes going into this season. Of course, Zero and Afro haven't got the opportunity to get out to the States. Unfortunately, I think that really could have well sent London in a much better direction than they are in right now. At the same time, they have been looking better as of late, but it seems like, as we're going to discuss in the coming minutes, a change may well be due for this London team. Whether Afro can get there in time to have a significant impact, that of course remains to be seen, but many teams considering changes right now, especially those that are on the brink of not making it to the World Championship. Only the top 8 teams in the league do make it there, and well, even the teams that are well still in that bracket are certainly considering changes, as we are going to dive into in a couple of seconds here with this Minnesota Rokkr move. So Afro's visa seemingly approved, says Crone. Obviously, well, very exciting prospect. The strength and depth in the European Challenger scene is awesome, and well, thankfully we might get an opportunity finally to see some of it in action in the US. Of course, we've seen what Hydra has done since he has joined this lineup. Let's talk then about the Minnesota Rokkr. So they confirmed yesterday a roster update is in the board, and we are moving aCQuRC to the bench and bringing MajorManiak back to the starting lineup for stage 4. Very interesting, this from a number of different angles. They explain it from a couple of different directions, because of course, like, they haven't been performing. aCQuRC statistically hasn't been putting up the numbers that you would expect really of a main assault rifle player, and of course the search and destroy factor is one of the reasons why they cite for bringing MajorManiak back into the team. The interesting thing about this really is the fact that Maniac, I think the majority of people would have said when this change was initially made, when they brought Standy in for MajorManiak a couple of months ago, they looked so much better after that. They had one of the craziest honeymoon periods that we have seen, really, well, that I can remember in Call of Duty history, really, given the way they look now. They came top 10 at the last major after getting 3-0'd by London, but yet when they first formed this new squad, when Standy came in for Maniac, they looked like a top 3, top 4 team in the game. They were routinely, I mean, they're 3-0'd OpTic, they were beating Dallas Empire in Game 5s, they were taking a lot of teams the distance. They had a great result, really, at Stage 2 Major after I'm pretty sure they lost to the Minnesota, or they lost to Toronto Ultra in the end of that tournament, but still, all things considered, a solid result for Rokkr after they did make that change. But now their stage 3 was pretty woeful, and now, okay, they're bringing a MajorManiak back in for aCQuRC, which really was the move that I think a lot of people expected this team to make initially, right, keeping MajorManiak instead of aCQuRC, because it seemed to a lot of people that this team formed at the start of the season with both of those players was going to be way too slow, the pacing was just never going to work, and it has turned out in that way, and well, still aCQuRC, despite being a relatively slow AR, hasn't been putting up crazy numbers, and maybe they feel like, looking at the way some of the top teams are playing the game, there's a lot of pace going about. You look at those top teams, they play the game very quickly indeed. MajorManiak probably can bring that to them as one of their AR players now, as kind of their main assault rifle player, and Priestahh being that kind of second AR that you would expect right now. So, interesting change nonetheless. I think that this should be a step in the right direction for the Minnesota Rokkr. Whether it's enough to make this team once again a contender for, well, right up at the top there, that is another question entirely. I think the MajorManiak in theory should improve their pacing, should certainly improve their search and destroy, and that has really been their big factor, right? Like, when this team was doing so well, not only would they beat the lower tier teams 3-0, 3-1 by taking a lot of respawns, but they could take at least pretty much every top team in the game to a Game 5 and then win the Game 5 because they were so good at search and destroys. And that really hasn't been the case these last couple of months, since I think aCQuRC in stage 3 had like a 0.65 or something in search and destroy, so not exactly pretty, not what they want to see, and statistically, MajorManiak has been ridiculous. This is Elite Season 3, S&D KD, MajorManiak has a 1.62, so in theory that should improve their search and destroy dramatically. At the same time, is the pacing on this team still a bit of an issue? I always do have question marks about Attach being a second SMG, just because Attach is historically and still continues to be a relatively slow player. Would it even make more sense to have him on like the second AR, kind of almost what Kenny's done, and maybe put Priestahh back on the SMG? I do wonder whether they're considering some additional role changes. I don't think they'll make any further changes to this so far this season, but maybe some role changes, for the rest of the season, maybe still considered if they cannot perform the way they would like to. So Minnesota Rokkr do confirm a change. I think on the other side of things, you've got to talk about aCQuRC, right? What the future potentially holds for him, because obviously a very tough time for a number of these main assault rifle players, or really veterans in general, getting booted out of starting teams right now. I've seen it with Loony, and of course, if you're a main AR right now, you've got aCQuRC sitting on the bench, you've got Method sitting on the bench, you've got Slasher no less sitting on the bench over at Los Angeles Thieves. If there's no expansion next year, it's going to be very difficult for these guys guys to get back into a spot. It's incredibly competitive for those positions, and yes, he can bring a lot to a team outside of, intangibles and being a very good leader on the team, but if the slang isn't there, that's what you need right now in 4 versus 4. The top teams have it. That's it's something that's going to be tough to justify to a lot of organizations, but yeah, generally appreciate you. I will be back, says Accuracy, so we'll have to see what form that potentially takes, and as he says, MajorManiak right here, I've been placed back on the starting team. Appreciate the love. Time to turn it around for these guys. As Priestahh says, roster change is never easy. Appreciate everyone's support, and of course, Attach and Accuracy have been a duo for so long at this point. It felt like Accuracy was always going to have a spot somewhere because Attach had a spot somewhere. Now, if that duo is broken up, finally, then I wonder what the future holds for both of these fellas. But that is not where the Rostermania chaos ends on the day. We get this that comes out from Crone. Alex is back, so apparently back in North Carolina right now, where the London guys are. So it seems like Alex is back after these personal issues that he had. I'm pretty sure he left her back in April or something, left the team. Of course, Paul X came in, and then Zaptius has come in more recently than that. So not really sure what's going on with London, especially because of this tweet that comes out from Zed yesterday. My luck this year has been awful. I feel for you, brother, says Zaptius in reply. Hit me up if you need anything. Remember to trust the process. So this seems like very blatant, to be honest, that Zed's basically just been dropped from the team. I don't think that was deserved by any means. I think Zed's actually been fantastic on this squad. But at the same time, if Alex is now back, of course, we've got Dylan still sitting there on the bench. You've got Afro potentially coming in. I don't know what's going on with London right now, but there's also questions regarding the Seattle surge. Joey Nubsy says, going to stress you back to 300 pounds because, potentially some stressful things going on behind the scenes with their roster. Of course, looking like pretty much the worst team in the league. And this is what Octane says last night. I'm going to write a book when my career is over. I cannot believe what has been happening these last couple of years. So, okay, what does this mean from Octane? There's a lot to dive into right here. Maybe this is just absolute complete bait, but look, I don't think Octane's going to be dropped off the team, even though, to be fair, EasyMac did make quite an interesting point lately on the Breaker Boy podcast. The idea that, look, if you're Seattle, you're pretty confident that Octane doesn't want to stay onto your team next season. So, he's probably not going to re-sign the contract, right? He probably wants to go to another organization if he well can, because Seattle's clearly been an absolute disaster for him these last couple of years and for that team more widely. So if you're Seattle, do you actually consider trying to trade Octane for someone else now so that you just kind of get over and done with, right? Rather than having to, let him go at the end of the season and maybe not getting anything in return. That is, something you could at least consider doing. But look, I don't think Octane's going to be going anywhere from this starting team. But whether Seattle as an organization and as a team is actually making changes, that is, of course, very likely indeed. So some more replies to this. We see Methods come in the replies. Another one of these ARs sitting on the bench. We're dropping like flies, man, says Octane. So I'm pretty sure this is just bait, at least to some degree. But whether there's no changes going on at Seattle at all, that is obviously another question in its entirety. As Crone then comes out and says, a lot of questions about Seattle Surge and Octane at the moment. I'm not 100% sure what's going on yet, but from what I've heard, Octane has not been benched. And as Prestinni then says in reply, phew, like he's pretty happy with the situation now. Some tweets from Prestinni coming out, some tweets from Octane coming out. Nothing, nothing from Decimate that I've really seen, or Gunless. So, okay, maybe there's something going on there, who really knows? And as Octane says, you'll be back, man, just keep grinding. So at this point, I'm pretty sure there's some baiting going on quite significantly, but at the same time, I would not be surprised if Seattle are at least considering some moves, given their standings in the CDL right now are far from pretty by any means. And also, people are pointing out, as Jordan Walker does right here, some of the tweets that Octane has been going through and liking. Teddy Rex, their former Seattle Surge, I think it was like their search and destroy analyst technically last season, or he was considered to actually be coming in as a search and destroy substitute for them. But he says right here, if Sam Octane gets benched, I've seen it all. Man is a unit. Now, Octane goes on to like this tweet. We can have a look through some of his likes here. Likes this one from Prestinni. This one as well. So Jacob replied to Crone saying, not sure what I've heard when Crone said that Octane's not getting benched. Jacob kind of says the opposite. And well, also this tweet from Zuma that we can look at right here. CDL teams like to make roster changes when things look good and not change at all when, they are absolutely awful at the game. It is so strange. So pretty interesting to hear, right? The fact that maybe he's not talking about, Zuma right here, necessarily Seattle, because Seattle have been looking awful. But, maybe talking about teams like London, for example, the fact that they've looked more promising, looked better. Also, I guess he could be talking about Los Angeles Thieves that made this change when they had TJ actually looking pretty good in their team, and then they, of course, make the move for Huke. Now, Ben the Sim says in reply, no BS, this might be the worst set of roster moves I've ever seen. Now, of course, very interesting, right? Because roster moves in the plural seems like an emergency flank maybe on the way, certainly here. But, roster moves. Which teams are potentially considering changes? Are there multiple teams considering changes? How many should go down this route? That is, of course, a very interesting interesting question at the present time. Emergency flank on the way. And of course, these are the teams right now sitting in the CDL. There is obviously a lot of them. And well, these are some of the teams that might be considering some roster moves. So Minnesota Rokkr have obviously already made a change. Seattle Surge are the team to me that's in an interesting spot because they've already made this lineup change. Loony's out the team now. Of course, the future for him is certainly still up in the air. I think he's been doing these awesome streams actually where he breaks down the games from the previous days. I think it's called Hindsight or something. So if you guys want to check that out on his Twitch channel, twitch.tv/Loony, I think that's pretty damn good content from the small clips that I've seen from it so far. But of course, look, Paris are down here at 60 points, London down here at 70 points, and London has honestly been the team as of late that's probably looking the most promising out of these bottom four. So if they are making another change, it's pretty interesting to see whether bringing Alex back is actually going to make this team so much better. I mean, who really knows what's going to happen over the coming days? It seems like a lot of changes are potentially being discussed behind the scenes. Of course, for the top guys, you're not expecting too much outside of maybe what the Dallas Empire decide to do. Rokkr have already made a change. Mutineers have been looking better, but still up and down and very inconsistent. But yeah, it's really this Seattle squad, right? You made this change for Decimate. Nothing has really improved on the team. You look, well, not necessarily worse than you did before, but coming to the major and getting beaten by LAG is just, especially losing all three respawns in the way you did, is just pretty tragic. Now, okay, obviously getting rid of Octane, I can't see how that's going to be the plan, but there is some interesting questions about the rest of the team because Gunless, of course, last year didn't get the opportunity to play at the World Championship because he was benched off Chicago Huntsman at the time, and then, you know, now he's here on Seattle Surge, probably also not going to get the opportunity to compete at the World Championship again because Seattle just aren't good enough to actually get there. And I mean, all the players on their team are very individually talented and have played very well, but the team as a whole is just an absolute shambles. And what's the cause of it? I don't really know. And well, it seems like they might be considering some sort of changes to try and turn this ship around. But intrigued to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy it, I'd greatly appreciate a like on the video. It really helps out the YouTube algorithm because you enjoyed this content. Other people like you may enjoy this content as well, and help grow the competitive Call of Duty community. Thank you for watching as always. Take care, and I will see you next time.